Welcome to another match preview where we look ahead to the FA Cup clash with the Stones hosting their near and dear rivals Ebbsfleet United for a place in the first round proper. So before we look ahead to the latest FA Cup tie for the Stones, we've got to look back at that Worthing win in what was possibly the best Stones performance so far this season. Hopefully it might go some way to avenging last season's semi-final disappointment too, Nigel.
Yeah, it was a good all-round performance, wasn't it? I know you commentated on the game, and Stones travelled in numbers once again, but from the minute one we was right at it, weren't we? Yeah. And I think what pleased me about the performance is that people were actually performing in the roles that they were brought in the club to do. You know what I mean? And that they, Charlie Seaman, we sort of lauded him up at the beginning of the season, didn't we? As this attacking winger that's going to bomb up and down the touchline, and he duly did that, didn't he, with that first goal? And
1,362 days between his last goal against Eastbourne for us during COVID and that goal at Worthing. Just a quick stat bomb in there, Nigel, to throw you off the tracks.
Yeah,
but a bit of time betwixt the two.
But he started the season, got a bit injured, didn't he? And then sort of played out of position in that Chelmsford game. Well, a bad position, but he was in a flat back four, so he couldn't get forward as much. But he started, to really find his feet again now. And we've said about Ben Brooks down the left hand side. Well, if you've got that on the right and on the left as well, it proves you're going to always be a threat, aren't you? It was good to see Trusty get an assist on that first goal as well. On his first start, and I think as well he kind of could potentially be that missing link. We've said we need that sort of like holding midfield player to allow the likes of Corn and Papadopoulos and Benton to be up that end of the pitch, up that final third, creating those passes. So, and I think he did that role superbly, considering his first start. And the weight of that ball. I mean, it was literally what Jeff Boycott called an old cricket commentary, down that corridor of uncertainty, didn't he? The keeper didn't know whether to come or go, and he just didn't get there in time. And what a finish by Seaman. Although he got there first, he still had to have the composure to put the ball in the net, which he did.
Reminded me of that goal Harry Kane scored against Leicester a couple of years ago when he was sort of lying on the ground almost and still managed to kick it. Seaman was sort of in the throes of getting into that sort of position and still being able to control the ball.
Looking at the way the game panned, he probably had an easier chance. 5 minutes after that when he rounded the keeper, but he just couldn't keep his shot down. But it was all good signs, wasn't it? And then again with the second goal, it was good to see Aaron Blair get an assist because he's working that roll up the top. He works that line very well, and that ball. And again, how often we've seen Sam Corn a very fit sort of box-to-box midfielder, which Sam Corn is. And
it was just so calm as well, because so much of the finishing on Saturday had meant the Stones weren't miles ahead like they could have been on another afternoon. But it was just Sam Corn, the skipper, the presence, the knowledge.
Yeah, I say
simple sliding.
We've seen it so many times, haven't we, from Sam Corn? And I think again at the beginning of the season, because of injuries and people not performing in their roles in the squad, he was having to sort of play that deeper role and that holding midfield role, which kind of takes away that sort of element of his game where he, the last few seasons where he gets into the box and kind of third man in sort of thing, and he's got double-digit goals or close to it in the last 2 seasons. So, it's all good form, isn't it? And Papadopoulos and John Benton had good games as well, didn't they? Really sort of like they said it. George said it in his interview afterwards as well. But I think, apart from that 5-1 game, and we know there was different, when we lost down there last season, we talked about it in the preview for the Worthing game. That was between the FA Cup rounds, week before Christmas, where they was all going out onto their Christmas jolly, wasn't it? So they didn't really have their minds on the game, and it was just like, as George himself said, it's just one of those games that got away from us. Probably like the Chelmsford game this season. It's just these freak results happen, but generally, the way that Worthing set up and play, we do seem to have the game that can counteract that. Yeah. We lost the playoff semi, but we were the better team in that. We was unlucky, and and again, the footballing gods. How often does that happen?
So strange.
Essentially, like we did it in the semi-final. He hit the crossbar, didn't we? And then they goes down and scores, and we did it exactly the same with an ex-Maidstone player hitting the crossbar. Do you know what I mean? It's like really weird how
it was.
Where you were calling it on the commentary as well. How weird would it be? And it just happened like that. So, yeah, it's good. It's good sign for the season going forward now, because you've got players to say coming back, playing in their position. We've got a good squad now. We've got depth in the squad. We've got players that can come off the bench and affect games. And so, yeah, it's just all promising signs, which is what we said, didn't we? We said that in the preview. It's only going to take a few good performances, and hopefully we can, as we talk more through the Ebbsfleet game, we know the FA Cup buzz from last season. That sets us up now to really, really push on, and it really set us up for the season ahead.
Oh, yes. So, the Ebbsfleet preview. We talked about the Maidstone squad getting into shape. Let's see about the Ebbsfleet one, starting off with their goalkeepers. Number 1, experienced Mark Cousins in his 3rd season with the Fleet. He's won the FA Trophy with Bromley, as well as the National League South title back in 2023. Harrison Thirth is an academy graduate and has experience with Punjab United and Chipstead. And Dylan Berry signed from Norwich in the summer. He was in goal for Chelmsford's playoff semi-final defeat last season. So Nigel, Mark Cousins, another keeper who's crossed the Stones path before.
Oh yeah, another very experienced keeper and knows the level. We've played here before, not going to be overawed by the occasion. And yeah, they've probably got a good mix of goalkeepers, really. Like you said, Dylan Berry, I think he's sort of come across, I've heard his name before. It's obviously with Norwich when we had Bard in here as well, wasn't he? So plenty of National League South experience. So, that's what you want when you playing at the level they want. If there is an injury in the mid-game to that, they've got a good experience backup as well. Although he's only young, but he's had that sort of real game experience. So yeah, I think they're pretty well sorted in that department, really.
So in the defence, Luke O'Neill has more than 300 Football League appearances. Lewis Page has featured for West Ham in the Europa League before signing at Stonebridge Road back in the summer. Louis John is back with the Fleet for a 2nd time after 8 successful years with Sutton United. Elijah Anthony was signed as one for the future, their words, not mine, after his time within QPR's youth setup. Tyler Cordner is on a season-long loan from York City. Giles Phillips was signed by Danny Searle for a 3rd time, having previously been with him at Aldershot and Waterford. Tom Dallison joined in the summer after 2 years and more than 60 appearances at Colchester. Franklin Dommie, who can also play in midfield, is another one in his 3rd season with Ebbsfleet. Jack Wakely is a former Chelsea under-21 defender in his 2nd season, and Mustafa Olangunju has EFL experience with Huddersfield, Port Vale and Crawley. Charles Ondo scored in the National League Cup last week, well, whatever that is. Nigel, that mix of youth and experience again, and quids in the post, don't worry.
A couple of them have gone out on loan. I think Giles Phillips has gone out on loan to Hornchurch, I believe. You look at their side, and I mean, Tyler Corden, when we was last in the National League, when he played with Aldershot, I think he made the team of the season. He really was an up-and-coming player, and it hasn't quite worked out for him since that season. There's a lot of Football League clubs looking at him. York kind of snapped him up, and it was seen as a bit of a marquee signing for them, but didn't really feature last year. We know they had a lot of managerial changes at York, and then he's come on loan, and again hasn't really sort of hit the ground running down at Ebbsfleet. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, they've brought a few players in recently, haven't they? A few of those have just come in since Wakeling's been there. Again, they've got the experience. I think Page is injured, isn't he?
Quite possibly, yeah. Because again, reason for them to have to bring in these reinforcements.
Yeah. So so it's going to be interesting what lineup they kind of pick. Really, I think they're looking at sort of. They have been setting up at 3 at the back.
It might well match what the Stones do.
Yeah, well, they've been going between a 3 and a 4. I mean, they played on Saturday. They against Rochdale with Cundall as a left back. Yeah, they've got the experience there, but for whatever reason, they're just shipping goals, aren't they? So
you get in a rut in that National League, as we know from experience, of course, and they do themselves from last season as well. So difficult thing to get out of. So on to the midfield, which consists of Wes Fonguk, one of many from the Crystal Palace conveyor belt of recent years. He signed in the summer. Josh Wright has more than 400 EFL appearances and has been club captain since last season. Jeffy Tanger is an electric winger who breathed new life into the Stones during the 2024 part of last season. scoring twice in this week's Kent Senior Cup win against the juniors. Soon may the Kellerman come, he likes drinking tea and rum. Sorry, COVID flashback there. Jim Kellerman, he scored a last gasp leveller for Aldershot against the Stones back in 2017. He's reached the playoffs on at least 4 occasions in his career. Ben Chapman's in his 5th season, having previously come through the youth ranks of Palace Gillingham. Craig Tanner has EFL and SPFL experience throughout his long career. Toby Edser is yet another of the ex-Aldershot brigade at Stonebridge Road. He spent his formative years with Fulham, Charlton, Forest. Greg Cundall is in his 5th season with the Fleet as well. He's got more than 100 appearances for the club. He scored the other goal in the 3-1 Kent Senior Cup win this week. Shamar Lawson is another former Stone, who was one of the bright parts of our most recent National League season. And William Randall Hurren joined from Notts County in the summer. Lots of experience in this midfield, the Nigel, and some players who've played for and against the Stones at one time or another.
Yeah, exactly that. They've got that experience there again, but like we just said with the defenders, they've got a lot of injuries there as well. I mean, Fonkook is one of the signings they brought in the summer, as sort of had his time at Barnet and a well-respected sort of player, but he's been injured. Kellerman's been injured. I think one of them, Fonkook might be on his way back, and he could possibly feature at the weekend. But for me, the player that really stands out there is Ben Chapman. I mean, like you say, he's been there 5 years. He's sort of their go-to player. I think he scored a good goal against Rochdale on Saturday, and that 2-2 draw got them back into the game. He just seems to be one of those players, though, Chapman. They never sort of know what position to play him in. They played him as a right wing back, centre mid, or sort of wide of a 3 in midfield. And I think on Saturday he was playing as part of a 3 in midfield. So it's going to be interesting how they line up. And then you mentioned the Stones effect as well. I mean, Jeffy Tanga, although he didn't play in the cup last year with Maidstone, he was part of that. He was in the club for that cup run. He was certainly in the dressing room at Ipswich and Coventry. He's going to want a piece of the action, isn't he? He's going to want a piece of. They've only got the one game to get to the first round proper, and again, Shamar Lawson, we know he was kind of probably the standout player in our FA Trophy run. So he's, I know certainly against Eastleigh, when we beat him 4-0, he had a very good game that game, and he was deservedly man of the match. So, all these players, it's a cup game, it's not a league game. So that if they come into the side, they've all got that experience to put in a performance in a one-off in a one-off cup performance. So it's going to be difficult. Although fans are looking at it thinking, yes, they're bottom of the league, and that does sort of zap your confidence a little bit. But on their day, they are all good players. It's just whether the manager can get the system set up to put in a performance away from home.
So up front, Rakesh Bingham has more than 50 goals for the Fleet in what's now his 5th season. Dominic Samuel helped Blackburn Rovers get promotion to the Championship back in 2018. He's got more than 130 EFL appearances. Dominic Polion has more than 200 EFL appearances, top scorer for the last 3 seasons, and is amongst the top 10 all-time scorers for the club. That includes the 36 he got in their title-winning season in 22-23. Nathan Odoconiero scored 9 in 14 on loan at Tunbridge Angels last season, and Kwame Thomas has more than a dozen clubs in his career, winning the Scottish Championship with Dundee in 2023. So all bagsmen there, Nige, with bags of experience, bar Nathan, but he bagged a few at our level last season. Bag.
He did. That's right. I think Dominic Samuel was out on a season-long injury. I think he got injured in the very first game of the season.
Recurring theme with a lot of the Fleet players.
He is. I mean, I think when I read the KM article, they were saying they've got 10 players, 10 sort of first-teamers out. So although they've got a large squad, they haven't really got that. And Bingham himself is only coming back from injury. I don't think he's played a full 90 minutes yet this season. I think he came off the bench on Saturday. I don't think he was a starter on Saturday. So, and Polion, again, he's another one of these players. Yes, he had that purple patch season when they won the National League a few years ago, or National League South, sorry. But he hasn't really. He started off the last season really well. I think he got to double figures by really quickly, but then he's kind of just fallen away again, and he's not really hit those heights. But he is hoping that it's going to go another couple of games because obviously, like they say, cream rises to the top, and if you've got that talent, it's gonna come to the fore, isn't it? So but as I'm saying, they've got a really big squad. But possibly the squad that they've got to make changes is a smaller pool than which is actually there. So, and what with a new manager coming in, yes, he's brought in a few new signings, and they might announce a signing before the game on Saturday. It wouldn't surprise me. It all adds to that sort of cocktail of intrigue, doesn't it, in the game? And I've said it on our previous previews with. When we were talking about the FA Cup, Ebbsfleet would have just got a normal run-of-the-mill National League South team. Would they have been up for it as what they would have been as a Stones fan? Would they have sold close to 600 away tickets if you'd have gone to Chelmsford? I don't think so. No disrespect, like I say, to Chelmsford.
C-word.
But it's the perfect game for all parties, really. I mean, we're going to probably get a 3,000 plus crowd here at the Gallagher Stadium for a fourth qualifier Man FA Cup game. Again, he's mentioned it in the press at Wakeling, they want to burst that bubble of Maidstone, the FA Cup euphoria that's going around the club. And if you're an upwardly mobile club and you've got aspirations to go to the next level, playing a team that's got to the fifth round last year on your doorstep, what more do you want?
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Spoil the neighbours' fun.
Yeah, exactly that. So obviously he's going to come out and say that in the press. He's not going to turn up and say, we're going to go there and just, make way and roll out the red carpet and, praise them for what they did last year because, so it all adds to that sort of histrionics of a local derby, doesn't it? So, and there is a rivalry, since we've been back at the Gallagher. Even before we got to this level, Ebbsfleet were the ones that were playing at this level, so they was always what we wanted to achieve. And then going through sort of like the playoff semi-final, the way that panned out, there was a lot of, I don't want to say jealousy, but resentment towards Maidstone because like we were the new boys in the league, wasn't we? At that stage, we'd gone straight through it, and then we played the National League, and then got there the season after, and then they kind of had the better of us in that National League campaign when we played them in there because they got to playoffs one year. But recently the histories have been so sort of aligned. There's always been 1 year in, 1 year out sort of thing as well. So it's just all those ingredients. You put it into the melting pot, and it just all adds up to like that is our I know long-standing it's Gillingham, but that is our sort of at the moment that's our sort of rivalry, isn't it? So. Yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure.
So looking at the Fleet's form, they've been poor so far this season, no two ways about it, evidenced by their league position of 24th out of Czech's notes 24. Only the one win in 13, 9 defeats, 3 clean sheets in that period, and only one of their 6 points have come on the road. They did have that 3-1 Kent Senior Cup win, which may give some confidence ahead of Saturday, Nigel. So we know that form is out the window come Saturday, of course, but the Stones must know that they are playing a potentially wounded animal and they're desperate for an uptick in form, and Saturday looks ideal for them to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Like we've just previously mentioned, what more of a tonic would they want to get up? We know for ourselves when we was in the National League South, that season we went to Needham Market. Would it have been different if we'd have gone to a Tunbridge or something in that fourth qualifying round? Possibly, but you just when you're in that scenario, you concede. Shamar Lawson is a case in point. Good player in his own right, but when you're in that side, it's very difficult to sort of be recognised for what you do because the team's performing so poorly. I mean, we've seen it from players that played in that season that have gone on, and Regan Booty being the case in point. He's now one of the top performers in the National League with Gateshead. But again, I still say, there's nothing like a wounded animal. So don't ever think that yes, the Stones are going to know that probably there's more expectation on with the fan base. I think really because of last season and
Yeah.
because of where we are in the league and the performances are picking up. But I'm sure George will, as his mantra's always been, it's one game at a time. Don't start looking at the Ebbsfleet game until after Worthing, which is what he's done, and they've had a whole week to prepare for it now. And they know their strengths, they know their weaknesses, and we know our strengths and weaknesses. We know what we've got to be guarded against. Where they can hurt us. So I'm sure that whatever fans say on the forums and what's written in the press, behind closed doors in the training session, he'll have them well prepped. And like we've said it before, haven't we? The new players that have come in, the likes of Ben Brooks and I know he's not a new player, but Charlie Seaman and Papadopoulos and John Benton, they're all going to want a piece of that, that magic that happened last year, aren't they? They've seen it can happen. It can happen. Mason have proved that. So even if it's just getting to the first round proper, because you don't know what that draw is going to be. Yeah. So they're going to be switched on. They're going to be up for it. They're going to know. I'm sure they're. That's where you earn your money. That's what that they signed for Stones for, isn't it? To get to play in games like this. So. This is it. This is what we've said, and we said it before Worthing as well. This is it. This is where it's time to be counted and this step up and bring your A game and perform.
So Ebbsfleet's FA Cup history, they've gotten through the fourth qualifying round in 8 of their last 17 attempts, and their current guys, so a bit of a 50-50 shot for them. 5 of the last 7 more recently. A 1-0 second round home defeat to Fleetwood in 2022 was their best performance. They've played the Stones 6 times in the FA Cup as Gravesend and Northfleet. 1951 beat the Stones at London Road in a preliminary round replay. 1960 saw the Stones win 2-1 again at home in the first qualifying round, and in 1976 saw a 3-1 Stones home replay victory again in the first qualifying round, and then finally 1982 saw the Stones win at Stonebridge Road in the fourth qualifying round, set up a memorable tie at Weymouth that year. So Nigel, a lot of history between these two sides, mainly in Maidstone's favour, certainly back in the day at least.
It counts for nothing, it counts for everything, doesn't it? It's probably, like we said with the previous things, it matters more to the fan base. From the way that players are nowadays, they go from one club to another club. There's not that, especially in the 80s at this level, you get players playing for a club for 5 or 6 years, and so that maybe would become more relevant, but I don't think it does now. And players travel from far and wide now. I mean, we've got a lot of Essex-based players, so that that rivalry is not going to count so much. But it's to the fans that matter, and if they can get that and know what it means to the fans, then I'm sure they're putting in the performance that's required.
So the Stones FA Cup record in the fourth qualifying round, pre-2000, the 1986 year saw the infamous 4 times played match against Southwark, finishing with a 5-1 away win. Post-2000, only one loss at this stage during the Gallagher era, the aforementioned Needham Market loss 2 years ago. Only the one replay at this stage since the return to the town, the late win at Enfield back in 2017. Any other games that stick out for you at this stage, Nigel?
Yeah, I think there's 2 really that stick out. I mean, that 2014 when we was a Ryman Prem team and we played Welling home here, got off to a fast start. I mean, when we was 1-0 up, then I think Franny Collins scored early in the second half as well in that game. And they were 2 levels above us at the time, Welling, so that was one. Then of course, how can we forget the Leyton Orient game here? Do you know what I mean? Blair Turgott, probably my all-time favourite goal. I mean, he went coast to coast, didn't he, from one penalty area to the other penalty area, and just the fact that it's the only time in their history that Leyton Orient ever made the first round of the FA Cup.
Yes.
Because of a defeat to Maidstone.
Mighty FA Cup Maidstone.
Exactly that. So we said it before. We've got a lot of history in the FA Cup, especially then around the late 80s and early 90s. In our previous guys, but even since we've been back here at the Gallagher, we've now got that sort of rich history of FA Cup triumphs and memories, and for the younger generation as well. So long may that continue.
So So some National League South sides out in the previous round. There was 14 other, to be precise, who remained. Chesham were taken to a replay by Bishop's Cleeve, but they got through earlier in the week. Weston-super-Mare knocked out Chippenham via a replay. Hornchurch were knocked out by Leiston in their replay, and Gorleston knocked out St Albans at the first time of asking. So 11 others remain, Nigel. 50% of National League South sides have a shot at round one this weekend, and as we know from last season, even just getting to round one is pretty big stuff, especially with that new domestic TV contract and what funds and attention that could bring.
Exactly that. You know, and I think from a Stones point of view, it just would underline last season. You know, just to be back in that sort of like, you know, even if we don't progress from the first round, it will just sort of like, you know, we kind of put Maidstone on the map last year, and we're not saying that we're going to go to the fifth round every year, but just to get to that, yeah, you know, major because of the FA Cup and all that, I've been there before, but just to get back to that first round again when the draw's made on TV, and you know, when the ball number comes out, it'd be like Maidstone United reached the fifth round last year. Do you know what I mean? that yeah. Again, it would just sort of like, okay, it wasn't just a one season wonder, and Maidstone have got a football club, and it's, you know, a generation thing rather than just a one moment in time sort of thing. So that's you know, that's what I'm hoping for really. That's I said at the beginning of the season, didn't I? It's like just get to the first round and see where it goes from there. But you know, that's for me would be the you know, what I'd really want. So come on, boys, you know it makes sense.
So we've mentioned the head-to-head on and off throughout the preview so far. In their last 10 meetings, there have been only 2 home wins, 1 apiece, the away side winning 6, 3 apiece and 2 draws, both at Stonebridge Road. Hardly anything between the 2 sides there, but the most recent shared league season did see the Stones do the double in their title-winning National League South season. But as I'm sure you will say any moment now, Nigel, it's the Cup and form out the window.
They're there, they're the ones that are in the National League, but we're the ones that's making all the headlines, and that must really sort of gall their sort of like fans. And you know, yes, it's difficult. You know, when you're say we've been in that rut, you know, the recent history is so similar. It's like scary similar. You know, we have seasons that sort of mirror each other. I mean, we haven't actually been to the National League playoffs, which they have, but it's just scary how it is. And you know, they're in that position at the moment where we've been there. As I said, we've been there a few seasons ago, where you're bottom of the league, you can't see where your next win's going to come from. But a game like this, who knows what would have happened if we'd have had a game like this in that season? It could have been the shot in the arm that Woody sort of like pushed us on if we'd have got to the first round that season. I think Needham Market from memory drew Burton Albion, so you know, away day to Burton Albion, you would have got all the fan base on board, and you wouldn't have been so doom and gloom, would it? So, from their point of view, I say they want to kickstart their season. They've got a new manager in. They haven't really had that new manager bounce. I know they've had a lot of injuries, but players are gradually coming back. They can make signings. So, like I say, you know, we don't know exactly what the first 11 is going to be, because they could announce a signing before the game, but about what we can control. It's just about us getting behind the team. Yeah. You know, we're at home. We've got to use that advantage, and you know, we're playing on a 3G pitch. So if you've got a lot of players that are with injury, you know, I'm not saying that adds to it, but you're going to be more cautious than bringing them back than you would normally. So yeah, we just got to use the home crowd to our advantage, and hopefully, you know, George will have them and clued up, and you know, it's an opportunity. That's to say, it's an opportunity to get to the first round again, and that's exactly what Ebbsfleet are going to be thinking. So it's just may the best team win.
So remember, if you can't make it to the game on Saturday, be sure to tune in to Chris and Darren from 2:40 on Stones Live. We'll see them on the hot take and hear them on the highlights once they go online a few hours after the game. But get down to the ground, get your ticket in advance. But if you can't, you know what to do. So can the Stones reach the first round proper for the 8th time in 11 years on Saturday? Fierce rivals Ebbsfleet stand in their way. Really looking forward to this one, and hope to see you all down here for that one. Thanks for watching our latest preview. Like and subscribe. See you for our next preview ahead of the Slough game here next week. And as always,
Come on, you
FA Cup
Stones!
Stones!